Program are those of the speakers and the host and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Friday, yes, Friday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. First Friday of high school football. This is where it all starts. Last night, though, Ty Bartel joining me as well. I forgot to give you your intro. My bad, Ty. I sincerely apologize. Last night we got our appetizer, right? You would call this an appetizer. We had 10 games on the network, kind of getting our feet wet at high school football, and there were some really good games, some lopsided games. I think some teams kind of established maybe what their identity would be this season that we were kind of asking questions about. A lot of interesting kind of notes from last night. 10 games last night, but 20 plus tonight.
Yeah,
So tonight's your main course.
yeah. Tonight's definitely the main course for football, but a lot of interesting scores last night. But how about the 4-4-0 and goal boys too?
Oh.
Getting, I think easily one of the games of the night.
Talk about kicking the doors down on your YSN debut. I mean, it was like they just strolled in. Yeah, we're gonna get the best game of the night.
And then talk about Edgewood making a YS debut too.
I think all of us inside most of us inside the company, except for the 4-4-0 goal guys who knew, exactly what to expect from Ashley Bula. We were all wondering, before Audible Call started, we were just kind of talking in the studio, what's Ashley Bula football kind of like? What's it going to look like compared to ours? And man, at least if that small sample size was any indication of what these football teams bring to the table, it was your old school knockdown, drag out, just punch you in the mouth kind of football. Running heavy, push the line, very physical. It was back and forth all night, scoreless first quarter. And then Conneaut had a really it felt out of nowhere because the drives weren't going anywhere for the first quarter. And then Conneaut put it together as a 71-yard scoring drive. And then, you felt like, okay, maybe Conneaut figured stuff out. But then Edgewood's defense came right back. They tied the game up with a pick six, 70-yard interception return for a touchdown to make it 7-7. And then here comes Conneaut again, another big scoring drive, capped off by their running back who scored his second touchdown of the day, Wyatt Paynes. And then, 14-7, Edgewood waited until the last minute, like the last possible time they could put together a drive. And it was their only offensive drive all night that really got deep into Conneaut territory. And then it was a crazy kind of red zone drive tie because there were several attempts at the end zone. A penalty brought something back. And then, we thought they were in the end zone, but they called them short. And then they finally punched it in for a touchdown. And we're thinking, okay, tie game. And then Edgewood's like, no way. We don't like tie games. We're going for two. And then they got the 2-point conversion. They won 15-14. That's incredible belief and guts in putting it on the line because you could have gone overtime just fine, kick the extra point, go into overtime, and try to win an OT. But Edgewood was not thinking OT; they were thinking we're going to win right here, right now, and they did it as they get the 15-14 win. The call for the 4-4-0 goal guys was unbelievable. Ty, I don't know if you got the chance to check them out at all. It was an amazing call. Those guys are just super fun to listen to. I was immediately glad that we brought them on the fold last night. We had them up on the Audible Call quite a bit. It was a fun night for them, and what an introduction into YSN for not just Ashley Beulah, Edgewood, and Conneaut, but also for the 4-4-0 and goal game.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, honestly, when Edgewood was able to put together that long offensive drive, they just struck while the iron was hot, too. And they kept it rolling with the 2-point conversion. They said, why put it in the hands of our kicker? Our kicker hasn't been up that much, too. He's kind of cold right now. So let's keep it with the offense on the field and let's roll the dice right there. Well, that time it rolled in Edgewood's favor, and they pulled off a week 1 victory. And that's always nice to get a week 1 victory and start off the season 1-0.
And it wasn't a situation where like Edgewood's kicker had missed a couple extra points in that game and he was struggling, but like the only extra points they kicked, he made. They were 7-7, right?
Yeah,
so
but he just hadn't kicked in a while.
He just hadn't kicked in a while. He's like, hey, let's.
So why put the? Coach wanted to roll the dice with the offense that was just on, put together a long drive, and
I love it. Week 1, nothing to lose. Why not? Let's just go for it and get out of here with a win.
Yeah, why force overtime? Why risk any injuries too? And I mean, like you said, you fall behind too. It's not that bad behind the 8 ball. You're 0-1. But no, certainly it works out for Edgewood, works out in their favor, and everyone in there, and heck of a YSN debut to start off.
I know, right? You couldn't have asked for a better debut. Edgewood now 1-0. They will go back to a Friday night game next week as they will travel to Grand Valley to continue their season in week 2. Conneaut is on the road again. They're back in the YSN team too, so we'll see them on the network next week as well as they travel to Western Reserve in week 2 to try to get their first win of the season.
Should be interesting too. Get more exposure to these teams too, as they're playing a lot more YSN teams.
Yeah, and Conneaut, their running back Wyatt Paynes, he scored both of their touchdowns, and he was a big selling point in their offense. A big reason why they were able to move the ball when they did. So, when you're talking Western Reserve next week, we're obviously going to see what Western Reserve brings to the table tonight against Liberty. But when you're talking Western Reserve next week, they're going to have to focus on how well they can stop the run because Conneaut's going to bring a very good running back to the fold.
Certainly.
Edgewood, hey, what about the clutch gene, right? Like when big plays needed to happen, they got it. They were down 7-0 in that game. I believe right before halftime in the second quarter, pick 6, 70-yard interception return for a touchdown. That's a clutch play. And then your offense hadn't been doing much all night, but here they are with a full drive in the fourth quarter to win the game. They go through some adversity down in first and goal territory, get some plays that don't go their way, calls that don't go their way. They kept pursuing and finally punched it in the end zone. And then they just said, you know what? Let's just go for 2. And they got that clutch play too. So Edgewood, not a lot of highlight plays on offense, but the clutch plays were there. Remember, we talk about it all the time on this show, Ty, game-winning type plays. The game-winning plays were there for Edgewood.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what you look for, right? Who's going to step up in crunch time? And they found their man too, and they were able to get a big win too in week 1.
So once again, they will go to Grand Valley next week. Conneaut will be in Western Reserve, both teams on the road in week 2. Ty, the other game of the night was Salem and Crestview. I think we kind of expected this game to be highly contested, but maybe not the way that it went down. We didn't expect 7-7 for most of the game. It was a game with a lot of opportunities missed on both sides, some turnovers deep in the other team's territory. And finally, Salem was able to punch through with a late touchdown to make it 14-7, and then an interception on the other end, and they kicked the field goal to make it 17-7. They scored 10 points in the last maybe 5 minutes or so of the game to kind of seal that win. But Salem, that they got everything they can handle from Crestview, especially Rockland Batura. I don't know if you had to see some of the highlights of Rockland Batura on our partners over at 21WFMJ's Overtime Report, but you got a lot more respect from what he was able to do when the cameras were zoomed in on him than you did in the sideline cam. I mean, he was taking like 3 or 4 people on his back and rumbling through people and just knocking them over. He's a monster. That's not something that we didn't know beforehand, but he's going to be really tough to deal with for everyone that pops up on Crestview's schedule.
Batura tallied 82 yards rushing last night too on a very good, potent Salem defense as well. So Batura was still able to find his holes and be productive for Crestview's offense.
The problem was, I think Crestview they were just a little bit too one-dimensional. They only had 2 completions on the night. Couldn't really get the pass game going to take any pressure off Batura. And because of that, Salem defense just locked in the box and said, 24 is not beating us.
It was a heck of a defensive night, too, because you look at Jackson Johnson and his numbers way down from his usual 139 yards passing, too, only on 15 completions. So not a lot of offense being generated in the pass game by Salem, too. Credit Crestview for putting together a heck of a defensive game plan, too. It was just a defensive game, too, where the better defense just was able to get a win in this one.
I was thinking about it last night, Ty, and we were saying we didn't expect it to be a low scoring game like it was. We expected it. If Crestview were to win, we might have said like 21-17, something like that. And then if Salem were to win, we were thinking like Salem's offense was going to explode if they won because they wanted to speed the ball up, speed the game up. I think now that when you think about it afterwards, you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal that Jackson Johnson is struggling in his first game because we talked about it yesterday. How much of an impact Plays X-Line had on his stats last year. It's going to take him maybe a couple of games to kind of figure out who he has to take chemistry with in a live game situation. You can have chemistry with guys in practice. You can have chemistry with guys in a scrimmage, but until you get in that live regular season game kind of situation, you got to really start to find out who you really trust when you're throwing the ball to them and where receivers are going to break their routes and the route chemistry with your receivers. It might take a couple games for Jackson Johnson to kind of get into that groove. And luckily for him, he can rely on his defense to keep them in the game while he does.
Yeah. And for Crestview's sake right now, I mean, Rockland Batura is fine. I think you just got to question, too, what Coach Cusick's going to do for the game plan moving forward. Are you going to try to utilize Kirtland Miller a little bit more in the passing game? Yeah, the thing is, I mean, even if you go with short passes, you got to just try to find – the thing is you don't want passes ending up in negative yards or no yard gains. You need to have positive enough gains, too, on the pass completions. Even if they're short passes, screen passes, you need to be able to mix in those enough, too, so that Rockland Batura can get open too. But you might also see more options in the running game too. That's one thing that Crestview's done really well over the years.
Yeah, I think you just need to find ways to get other skill position players involved, whether it's wide receiver screens, whether it's end arounds, jet sweeps, whatever it may be. It's got to be just something that keeps the defense a little bit on their toes and doesn't say, we're just going to put 8 men in the box and we're going to come right through the middle and we're just going to make sure Rockland Batura can't muscle his way past our line.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw Salem do that a couple of times where they're just like,
and he's still at 82 yards.
Yeah,
so that tells you how tough that kid is.
So I mean, if you can create just gaps for him too, and maybe lighten up the middle of the field a bit for him too, defensively, he can definitely go to work. And that, just like you said, Ant, just starts with other skill positions just needing to step up too and be that other guy too, that guy that can be reliable for getting targets or the guy that can be reliable to get touches.
And let's be real, Coach Cusick has been there, done that. He knows how to adjust on the fly. He's not going to sit there and, say, well, my plan for week 1 didn't work too well on offense, so I guess we're just going to throw it away and, go run with it. Like, he knows what to do. He knows how to make adjustments. He knows how to develop kids. So Crestview's going to get better. Remember 2 years ago, they lost in week 1 champion. Their offense didn't look that great. And then all of a sudden, their offense was amazing the rest of the season. And they didn't lose the game after that. So not necessarily panic mode time if you're Crestview fans hitting the panic button saying our offense didn't look great, it looked too one-dimensional, whatever it may be. You have a really good coaching staff on hand, and they're going to make sure they find a way to put the kids in the best position to win. So looking Crestview's past, they do not go on losing streaks very often. So I expect Crestview to still be a team that finds a role in this season.
Wait until they get into that MVAC gray tier as well, too. Once they start playing their conference games, that's where Crestview has always made their money. It's
a tough conference, and Crestview got the win last night in the conference. Newton Falls was just absolutely dominant in their win, so that's a win in the MVAC gray tier tie. But MVAC gray tier kind of bruise was Brookfield. They had to go up against Ysn and Sandbox Stadium. Anthony Romo is going to join us in just a little bit to talk about that game. But real quick before he comes on, Ty, this is a game that I think people thought would be a lot more close. But Ysn started fast, and they just, like we said, they wanted to control the tempo, and they made it a high-speed kind of barn burner, and Brookfield just could not keep up with that. They want this game slow. And it was not slow at all.
No, not at all. And honestly, you look at what what Erickson did at quarterback as a game manager. I mean, he was doing it all, man, with his arm, with his legs, it seemed like. And that's exactly what Ysn loves to have, too, especially going forward. It seems like Coach Reardon has always wanted that multi-threat quarterback, too, because it really puts defenses on their heels, too, because they don't know what's coming. As we could bring Anthony Romo in, and he can give us an in-depth look at the game from the last night.
The man himself who was on the call, Romo, we just said it before you came on. Ysn, I don't know if many people expected them to break out of the gates as fast as they did, but they started this game with their foot on the gas and they never let it go.
Yeah, that was a big question mark, I could say, coming into last night. No one quite knew who the starting quarterback was going to be for Ysn. And with that being said, no one really expected the Irish to kind of jump out as cleanly as they did. They deferred. Well, no, they actually elected to receive the first half kickoff. And they went to work. High tempo offense. I mean, I had a lot of fun last night with Steve Leslie. Ysn they took it to Brookfield. And the thing is that makes that even more scary, Brookfield's a good team. A lot of people may have been looking at that score last night thinking, well, maybe Brookfield's not who we thought they were. No, that Brookfield team has potential in Division 6. I'm telling you right now. Donovan Pulowski is a great quarterback, throws a great ball. He's versatile, runs the ball well. Isaiah Jones, when you get the ball in his hands, which that really hurt Brookfield last night, they didn't get the ball in his hands that much. I'm sure, obviously, as much as they had wanted to. When he finds some space, man, is he quick. Standing at 6'5", he's lean, he's strong, he lowers his shoulder into people. That Brookfield team is going to have a very successful season after this year, after this week. But Ysn, man, I mean, they have so many athletes, so many assets. They don't rebuild. They just regroup. That's for sure. And the thing is, they have a lot of underclassmen on this team this year, which Steve and I could not stop talking about enough last night. Quarterback Jack Erickson Jr., Christian Lynch, their running back. I believe he's an underclassman. DC Farrell, sophomore. Mark Manning and Will Burney, the two senior wideouts. They're really going to lead the charge this year for the skill guys. But another thing that I want to touch on is just their line. You knew Ysn was going to be solid this year because of them returning a lot of guys that were on their line last year from a team that was in the state championship game. Got the right green. Took you a little bit. I saw that. But yeah, Ysn, one of the best teams in the Valley. I had a blast last night. Steve Leslie and I are going to have so much fun this year.
Yeah, I got you on green now. You officially moved to Ysn green.
There it is.
One of the things I want to talk about, you said they elected to receive the first half kickoff. Do you think that was something going in like, hey, we have to make sure everyone knows that our offense isn't struggling at all. We're going to take this first half kickoff, and we're going to establish a tempo right away. I feel like that was a calculated decision made by Ysn.
Yeah, and I feel like, honestly, in a way, coming into last night, head coach Dan Reardon, we talked about this on the broadcast, they want to put last year in the past with how that state championship game ended. Heartbreaking loss. They were up 28-7 against Clinton Massey in the third quarter, ended up losing 29-28. Touchdown in the last minute. We've all talked about it. We know how that went, but I'm sure Coach Dan Reardon just wanted to get the ball in his team's hands, show everyone the Ysn Irish football that we have been accustomed to seeing here on YSN during their time here at the network. And they sure put that in the past. This is a new team with a new identity. Of course, losing the three-headed monster they had last year in Brady Shannon, DeMarcus McElroy, and Dean Boyd. They have some guys that have stepped up, put in those shoes, and it's going to be a fun year. Another guy that I forgot to mention from last night, Tyreek Donlow, leading returner in a lot of defensive categories up front, leading returner in tackles for loss. He had 12 sacks last year. He's an underclassman as well. I cannot wait to see how this team performs for the next few years because I think it's safe to say after this week one performance that last year's team, the underclassmen from last year's team, they saw what they're capable of. They learned the Ysn way, and for these next few years, they're going to put on a show.
Anthony, I really want to talk to you about last night, just Jack Erickson's play too, because I mean, replacing someone like Brady Shannon, who is a multi-threat quarterback, it's not easy. But it seems like Coach Reardon's just is able to make these guys out of nothing too. Seems like he was productive with his legs and his arm last night. What did you see from him stepping into the quarterback role?
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive. Jack Erickson, a junior coming into this season. He played safety last year. He started on the defensive end, but last night was obviously his first start at varsity quarterback because Brady Shannon was at the helm all 4 years at Ursuline. From that 0-10 freshman season all the way to the state championship appearance last year. Erickson, he was cool, calm, and collected. I mean, it looked like he'd been out there a million times before. He did a great job with his reads, a lot of read options that Ursuline likes to run in that backfield with him and Lynch. He pretty much had a perfect read almost every time. I think maybe one time he kept it and was tackled behind the sticks. But, I mean, he throws the ball on a line. He had a couple overthrows of Will Burney that could have been touchdowns, but it's week one. Everyone's going to make mistakes. That's something that he can learn on. But I think that something that can make him really dangerous as a dual-threat quarterback is once he gets that deep ball down with the accuracy, because he has some arm strength, and having DC Farrell and Will Burney, two of the quickest guys in the Valley, out in opposite slots crossing each other, that's going to be a defensive nightmare.
And you called him out. DC Farrell, he emphatically introduced himself to the Ursuline community. I think a lot of people didn't know what he was going to really be doing in Ursuline this year. He quarterback for Liberty, or was going to be the quarterback for Ursuline. They seemed like they put him in the slot a lot of the times. And even on defense, he just said, "This is my show." Let's start calling him the Capital, because not only is DC the capital of the nation, Capital seemed to be in the middle of everything, and it looked like DC was in the middle of everything.
Yeah, Steve and I were just in awe of not only his play last night, but how he kept himself, because I think everyone in the Valley expected him to be the starting quarterback coming into last night. The Ursuline Irish may have been the only people that didn't expect that, because obviously we were introduced to Jack Erickson last night, and he's quite the ball player himself. But I know Steve was saying this last night on the broadcast. He was so impressed with how Farrell kept himself. He wasn't down that he didn't get that starting quarterback position. He seemed really comfortable in the slot. And he's really, now I'm going to say this as a comparison. Obviously, this guy was one of the greatest players to ever come through this Valley, and no one should ever really be compared to him toe-to-toe, because he was his own type of athlete, and that's Lynn Bowden. But I see that in DC Farrell. When you get the ball in his hands in the open space, man, is he fun to watch. And he's only a sophomore, so he has a lot of growing to do on the field, off the field. I'm sure he's going to get bigger as his career goes on, but he really can do it all. He can throw the ball. We saw a double reverse pass where he threw it back to Jack Erickson. He can run the ball, and he can play defense. He had a nifty pick six in the third quarter that really kind of put the nail in the coffin for Ursuline. But I was honestly left speechless last night. I mean, Steve and I, and especially from Steve's standpoint, because he's used to Ursuline. That was my first time ever doing the Irish. But even Steve said to me at halftime, I think this team really has a shot. He said this team can – now you're not going to duplicate the team they had last year, because I think that was one of these Valley teams that is very special, and you're not going to see for a lot of years with the amount of weapons that they had and the amount of Division I guys they had. But he said this team can really kind of make a name for their own this season.
I was kind of happy that Coach Reardon gave Erickson the start, because I think that's a kid that earned it, right? He kind of went through the program. He did everything that he was supposed to. I think he earned his shot. And if it didn't work out, then you had someone in the safety net that you could throw in DC Farrell that knows how to get back behind the center. But I think I was happy. I think he earned his spot, and he was definitely given it, and he made the most out of his opportunity for sure.
Yeah, and Jack Erickson, definitely, I had the opportunity to catch up with him after the game. If you didn't see that interview, I know it's on our website attached to our story if you want to go check it out. I mean, what a great guy Jack was. It's kind of hard. You might be able to tell there was a cut in the interview. I asked him a question about his line, and he wanted me to stop because he wanted to make sure that he got first and last name of each of his linemen that paved the way for him last night. And I think that says a lot about a kid who wants to go out in front of himself and thank other people before he thanks himself for the performance that he had last night. That's definitely a guy that I'm sure will be able to get on a coach's corner, a player profile at some point here this season. If you don't know, Golden Dawn, the official sponsor of the Ysn Irish, Steve Leslie and I will be live from there every Thursday night. We're thinking 7:15 p.m. at the Golden Dawn. We're going to have coach's corner, player profile, and I think that's something unique that we're going to try to do each and every week this year is get a cheerleader interview. I think they go through the adrenaline rushes that the players do as well. They're as much a part of the Friday Night Lights atmosphere as the team is, so it'll definitely be a fun year.
Looking at the upcoming schedule for the Irish too, I mean, I know they're home coming up this next Friday too. Padua Franciscan, it looks like too. I don't know if you've done any homework on them yet, but what is it looking like for the Irish too going forward for week 2?
I have not looked at it yet, but I know that Padua team, they're tough year in, year out. Ursuline's played them before, and each Valley team that they play, they give a lot of struggle to. That's another one of those big schools. Ursuline's a Division III school this year. We have a long ways to go until we get to the playoffs, but I'm pretty impressed with the numbers that Ursuline has this year. But part of the reason I think they dominated so much last night was because of the depth. They had way more depth than Brookfield had, and of course, Brookfield's a D6 team. But Ursuline's a pretty small school. That success factor bumped them up to D3. Once you face some of these bigger schools that are going to have as many guys as you have or more, and they can get some fresher bodies in there, I think that'll really be a test, and we'll see how true this Ursuline Irish team is this year. But I know that Padua is going to come into Youngstown State University next Friday night, and they're definitely going to give Ursuline a run for their money. I think it's going to be a big measuring stick game for the Irish.
Let's talk about Brookfield's side of this for a little bit, because you said they're going to be a Division 6 team that makes some noise. This seemed like a win-win going into this game for Brookfield, because if they won, wow, the computer points of beating a Division 3 team would have just skyrocketed them in the standings. But if they lose, it's like, who else in Division 6 is going and playing a team at the caliber of Ursuline? I mean, this is just one of those games that gets you ready for any level of play that you're going to see down in Division 6. What kind of positives did you see from Brookfield's game despite the score that makes you believe full-heartedly that they are going to be a problem down in Division 6?
So, yeah, I already talked about the duo of Donovan Pulowski and Isaiah Jones. I think they could be one of the best 1-2 punch quarterback receiver duos that we have here in the area this year. But something that was a big emphasis coming into last night's game that gave people the thought that Brookfield could really hang with Ursuline was their line. They have a big experienced line. Of course, Connor Heater, everyone knows about him. He's going to the Naval Academy to play his football career at the next level. But they had a couple opportunities early on where they kind of blew through the Ursuline line, and they were only running 3 down linemen, Brookfield was. They had a lot of guys in the secondary because of the skill weapons that Ursuline has. But I think that they missed a couple tackles in the backfield that could have shifted momentum their way. But like I said, it's week 1. There's things you can grow on. I think that Brookfield line is going to be stifling in Division 6. They're going to be giving offenses a lot of trouble. They're not going to have a lot of time to throw the ball in the pocket. And they were clogging run lanes a lot in that first half especially. I think the second half they got a little bit fatigued and a little bit down because you're going into halftime 38-7, one of the most anticipated games of the year. Of course, you're going to be a little down, but Brookfield didn't give up in the second half as well. They went toe-to-toe with the Irish, and a lot of their backups played pretty well. So I think that not only this year, but Brookfield's another one of those teams where head coach Randy Clark's building quite the program.
I know you cover the Irish, Dan, but I also know you're a football fan of local sports at heart too. So what was the other score that surprised you the most, or that you raised your eyebrows to the most last night?
I'm going to have to go Cheney. I believe it was 34-2, correct? Against Poland?
Yep.
34-2. And the thing that surprised me about that was, so we knew coming into the year, the athletes that Cheney has, Jason Hewlett going to Cincinnati already committed, and then you have Matt Jones, who seems like he took that quarterback role. He's only a sophomore like DC Farrell. He already has an offer from Kentucky. They offered him in the offseason. I think that we knew that Cheney team had athletes, but you have that first-year head coach in Seth Antrim, which we know that he has done well at Boardman, but we didn't know how he was going to turn out at Cheney. First game against a very experienced Poland team, a team that has tradition, a team that knows how to win. But I haven't even gotten to go back and watch that. I still will at some point today. The Cowboys gave it to Poland last night, and they're going to be another team that Steve and I were saying, when Cheney plays Ursuline, that might be the game of the year.
A big reason for that success, Romo, was they forced four Poland turnovers.
That's
huge. That defense was quick. They never got off their person. They were disciplined. I think that was the big thing for Cheney. The big question mark was they have a lot of athletes, but are they going to be composed? Are they going to be able to stay disciplined, stay away from the penalties, the unearned mistakes? And, from what we saw in the audible call, not a lot of penalties. They never turned the ball over. They didn't really put the ball in bad situations. They kind of stayed away from those unforced mistakes that maybe Cheney teams in the past would have made to stop them from winning.
And yeah, I think that hurt them a lot last year as well, because they had a lot of athletes last year as well. You have Clive Wilson, a guy who's now playing at Boston College, but it didn't really turn out how they had hoped record-wise. But obviously they gained a lot of experience, and you got to remember Cheney is still just a few years back into the resurgence of varsity sports. So this is a lot of kids who may have not really went to school growing up together. Now they all form here at Cheney in high school. So, I mean, you got to build the bonds. And as the years grow on, leadership will form from a lot of these younger guys. And I think that it's all starting to come together. And head coach Seth Antrim, I mean, talk about, I don't know if there's a better job in the Valley you could go into your first year with the amount of guys that Cheney has in that locker room.
All right, we can't let you go without talking about your game tonight. You're gonna take over Ty's press box for the week and go into Austintown Fitch to watch them play Foothill, right?
Yep.
Henderson Foothill, all the way from Las Vegas. What kind of things do you expect from this game? I know the research that Ty has done says that Foothill is a pretty good team coming in, so it's not going to be just a novelty to come in and just say we're playing a team from Las Vegas. How excited are you to call this game tonight?
Oh, I'm very excited. I actually got the opportunity to speak with Foothill head coach Vernon Brown a few days ago.
Woo!
We actually spoke on the phone it was 3 o'clock our time, 1 o'clock their time. They're in school already. So he was saying how that was on what? Wednesday? Yes, that was on Wednesday. We spoke. He was saying how the school day is going to end. They're going to do a walkthrough, and then they had to jump on a plane in Las Vegas at 6 p.m. their time, and then they were going to arrive here in Northeast Ohio at about 3 a.m. last night. So that was definitely a long day for them yesterday, but I'm sure they're prepared today. A lot of numbers. It's going to be very interesting because this Foothill team, I think, could be a Division II or a Division I team in Ohio compared to Fitch. Just looking at the roster sizes, they're very comparable. Foothill has a lot of guys themselves, but from what I've learned, they've lost a lot of guys last year as well, just like Fitch did. So I think this is going to be a game where the athletes for each team are really going to be the ones to prevail. In Foothill, they have a few guys that are getting some pretty big looks. We know about Fitch. We know Brian Robinson, who has bloomed this offseason into one of the best prospects in the state of Ohio and in the country in his class. And also you have a guy like Cam Smith, who's an Iowa State commit, and then up and down the board, Fitch, I know they have a few guys that have received some Toledo offers. But you look at Foothill, I know their quarterback, 3 offers: Eastern Washington, Washington State, Southern Utah. Nathan Anderson, another big guy for Foothill, has a Washington State offer. But the guy that really stuck out to me on paper, Lawrence Houston. So I'm going down their roster. I'm making my own roster off of what they had on Max Preps. And I see Lawrence Houston, okay. He's a lineman, 6'7", 390 pounds.
Oh.
Foothill. He has offers from UNLV, Fresno State, Arizona State, and Northern Arizona. So that's going to be a guy that won't be hard to miss on the field. I'm sure I'll keep an eye on him in the booth, but it's going to be a battle in the trenches. It doesn't matter what division you are. The trenches are what wins the game. I know Fitch has a lot of athletes. I'm very excited to see what Foothill brings to the table, but it should be a great game here tonight.
They might need 3 guys on this man on the line.
Yeah, for sure.
That should be an interesting matchup, though, too. And it's great, I think, for the Valley to bring these out-of-school teams, or out-of-town teams, I should say, into these schools, too, and compete with them. It's kind of nice to get like a measuring stick just to see what our area is to other areas' football programs.
Yeah, and you look at this Foothill team, I know that it really stuck out. A team that is in their conference in Nevada, Henderson is a suburb of Las Vegas. They're in the same conference as Bishop Gorman. And if you know high school football at all around the country, Bishop Gorman is year in, year out one of the best teams in the country. I know they've won a few Max Preps national titles in the last few years. Tate Martell went through there. Cordell Broadus, who played at USC, Snoop Dogg's son, he went there. That's a big school. And Henderson gets to play a team like that every year. They played him twice last year in the playoffs as well. So they know good football. It's a long plane ride away from home, but I'm sure a team like that will be ready to play come tonight. So Austintown Fitch is definitely going to have to bring their best stuff.
When you talked to their coach, did you ask him like what brought them to say they're going to go play Austintown Fitch in Northeast Ohio?
So here was the funny thing. I didn't, because we were actually talking during his planning period, which I got to give it up to him, Coach Brown. We talked on the phone for about 25 minutes. I probably took off his whole planning period at school. I was trying to get the key from it, but I don't think that this is a school that travels much. I had thought that initially, but he was saying how this is a once in a lifetime situation for his guys. So it could be like any of our teams. I know up in Northeast Ohio, not our YSN area, but I know Avon is playing a game at 4:00 today in the state of Florida. They went down to Florida to play their first game. So it would be like one of our schools traveling out there. I'm going to try to get some more information here tonight on the full gig, but definitely Coach Brown was a class act on the phone.
I heard they were making a trip of it and going to Canton today.
Correct.
So, for us, it's like a big deal. We can just go down to Canton for the Hall of Fame. But for people in Las Vegas, that is kind of a once in a lifetime trip to Canton, Ohio to see the Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame. I think we kind of take that for granted because it's in our backyard. But it's literally like that's a destination spot. So that could have been something that, like, hey, who can we play in Ohio? Hey, this Fitch team's pretty good. They have a couple of D1 offers. Let's see if they want to play us.
And of course, I think another thing that makes us kind of ignorant in a way to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and everything is that our state championships are played at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. And our schools here in the Valley are accustomed to making deep playoffs. When we saw Ursuline playing there last year, Springfield played there in 2019. So I think it's definitely a spectacle that a lot of people around here have been used to seeing. And it's not like we don't enjoy it at all, but we're kind of used to it. Everyone's kind of been there. You know what the deal is. But definitely that's one of those places that brings a lot of people here to Northeast Ohio. Just a few weeks ago, the Hall of Fame game was there, the first preseason game to kick off the NFL preseason. So it's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience for many people that don't get to live up here in Northeast Ohio.
It's funny that, like, anyone that lives in a city that has, like, a tourist attraction kind of loses its shine if you live there. It's like, well, no big deal.
It's
Been there, done that.
Teams too, beginning of the season, are almost utilizing that week as what we see spring break being utilized for, like baseball, softball season, where a lot of those teams travel, go out of state to get exposure to those teams.
Because, like, Avon can probably do it because their school hasn't started. Because I know Ohio has that rule that one school, if school's in session, you can't go out of the state.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the perfect time for some of these schools. And that's probably why you see football start a week early than a lot of these schools start, too. So it gives you room to travel, too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more of our teams go out of state as well, too, instead of just welcoming teams in.
Yeah, that's huge. That's definitely a big thing. And that would be pretty cool if, I mean, from our standpoint at YSN, if we were able to kind of travel a little bit with some of our teams. I know Canfield has a long game across the state next week at Bellevue. That's all the way up in Toledo. That's an in-state game, but it's definitely unique when you get to see these new matchups. And I think that that's something that was pretty cool when the OHSAA moved the playoff format to 16 teams per region, because it really gives you that chance to play a lot of teams that you may have never faced before. And we've seen a lot of division realignment as of late. Springfield went down to D7. Ursuline went up to D3. So those are two schools, just out of example, they're probably going to be able to play a lot of teams that they may have never been able to play before.
Yeah, and of course, everyone's talking about the fact that Kirtland got out of D5, and our teams in D5 are looking at D5 now like, hey, that door is open.
Yeah, at least the region. I know Coldwater moved up to D5.
Coldwater moved up, and even Perry moved down from Division 4, and that was the team that West Branch had to deal with in regionals last year. So yeah, Perry down by the lake, not Maslin Perry, the other Perry. Perry Pirates are now sitting in Division 5.
That is very good year in, year out. Yeah. They've been good for a while.
And with that realignment, you have to get with new teams because old obstacles left. But Kirtland's one of those once in a lifetime teams that no one wants to play.
No.
So,
and it's kind of with Kirtland losing, it's kind of looking like Chardon may take that role because that's a team that has the same play style. They're in Division 3, Region 9. They run the wing team. They run it to perfection. I know that I was talking with Richie about this a while ago. And one of their coaches was saying that when they get to middle school ball in 7th grade, they start running that wing tee. So it's not something that's new to them come high school. They learn that all the way through, and the wing tee is one of the hardest things to stop in high school football.
Because you cannot practice for it. Like
you can't
simulate it. You can't cut block in practice. You can't do all these things that a wing tee is built to do in practice. That's one of the reasons why it works for Navy in college football, because it's so hard to practice for it.
You can't really prep. You can't prepare for it at all. And I think that That's definitely a matchup. Canfield's had trouble with them the last few years, Chardon. You think the more you see it, the better you'll get at it, but
I wonder.
the wing tee is so easy to add new variations into as well.
I wonder if Canfield's ever had like the idea of like, let's get in touch with someone that plays Jordan every year in the conference and scrimmage them or have like a joint practice with them so we can learn how they prepare for the wing tee since they have to see it every year anyway.
And that would be a great idea because come week 13, week 14, when your back's against the wall, like you said, you don't have too much time to kind of settle down and watch film as much as you want to. You want to get your bodies out there and you want to get them as ready as they can with on-field activity. So if you get ready for that in the preseason and maybe schedule a team or two that you know runs the wing tee, so you would have seen it already at least once during the season, that'll be crucial for anyone that's going to have to play a team like that later on in the year.
This D3 is so loaded too in just this region. I mean, you're looking at Cheney, Aurora is always good, Benedictine, Canfield, Chardon. I mean, it is going to be a gauntlet. Yeah.
Glenville blanked St. B's last night, 25-0.
It's unbelievable, the talent of this D3. It's going to be a gauntlet, and I'm sure once you get your spot too, I mean, it's going to be a fun ride no matter who gets out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very fun region to watch as the playoffs go on because I think Glenville is a team that not a lot of people are talking about. They already have a guy in Bryce West who's committed to Ohio State. They have another guy that is really close to committing to Ohio State. They might have 3 Ohio State commits on their team this year. And that's a team that almost took Ursuline to the end of their season last year. They had Ursuline on the ropes at Euclid, but the Irish had a late touchdown kind of out of nowhere. I believe it was like a 70-plus yard touchdown, if I can remember correctly, that catapulted them into the next round. And you have just so many teams with high fire.
And then if I remember right, Ursuline had that late defensive stop near the goal line too. Like their defense needed to stop and they got it.
Yeah, that Glenville team had them on the ropes. And that was a very young Glenville team. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see those two teams meet up again this year.
And of course, Glenville would have revenge on the mind if that were to happen.
Oh yeah, watch out, Ursuline. That's a team that plays the same style that Ursuline plays. So it's like mano-a-mano on the field.
All right, Romo, before we let you go, you get to call games with Steve Leslie all season now, and he's a character. We love him. You get to wrangle him all season. What's this going to be like? What kind of taste did you get of it last night?
Man, we had so much fun last night. That was the second game I ever got to call with Steve. We called a Springfield basketball district final back last year in 2021 during COVID, and we had a blast. But that was just like a small dose for what we're going to get this season. We were texting this morning actually about it. I mean, we had a blast last night. Steve is one of the best color guys that I believe we have here on the network. No disregard to anyone else, but this is a guy in Steve Leslie who has done this for a while. He calls YSU football on the radio. He does the same thing he does for them that he does here. And he's a big X's and O's guy. He helps me out so much at the games with getting numbers who get tackles, and he sees defenses a lot better than I do from my standpoint when I'm trying to call out the offensive side of things, because when you're running the play-by-play, obviously the team that has the ball in their hands is going to get more focus. And Steve's calling out nickel packages, how they're bracketing zones. I mean, he helped me out so much last night. He's amazing.
All right, before we let you go, one more thing. Games on the slate tonight, besides the one that you have, which one are you looking out for personally?
I think a big game which will probably be a lot of people's game to watch out for, is Canfield West Branch. I think that game features 2 of the best quarterbacks that we have here in the area, and Brock Lowry and Drew DeShields. And whichever team wills their team more is going to be the one that comes out on top. It'll be interesting for Canfield because they're going to be playing on that West Branch grass. Not a lot of teams have grass around here in the valley anymore, and grass can really slow a team down rather than running on the turf. But I'm sure Canfield found a way to practice on grass this week. I'm sure they have a grass practice field. I think everyone does. But Brock Lowry, this is a big year for him. Indiana committee is going to kind of have that thorn on his back. People are going to want to come out and try to play their best game against a Big Ten commit. But I think Lowry is going to show this year why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the valley.
A lot of people kind of irked that West Branch didn't make our preseason power rankings, but they have a big opportunity to make them now.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a lot of shakeup next week in the power rankings. That's for sure. 23 games on the network here tonight. If you can't make it out to the ball game, you have all our games to watch live. You also have the audible call. This is just week 1, boys. I mean, we have about 4 months of this coming up.
How about this? So 10 games last night, 23 today, and then tomorrow with volleyball and soccer. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more. So between Thursday and Saturday, if my mental math is right,
43.
that's 43 games.
And Richie and I were talking about this on the Scrappers broadcast the other night, how we were like, man, it's about to get real really soon, because Richie and I have been the only show in town for about the last 3 weeks with the Mahoning Valley Scrappers. If you're going to find a game, that live games tab is going to be a lot harder to navigate, but in a good way.
It's a lot of green on our spreadsheets.
Oh yeah, and that's great. I mean, we had the YSN Academy, last weekend, 2 weekends ago, whatever it was. A lot of guys showed out, some new guys that were really excited that have jumped on the board here with YSN, and we're only going to continue to grow. We're not going anywhere. We're not shrinking, that's for sure. So we're looking to set some new numbers this year, viewership wise, and it's definitely going to be a good year.
Romo, have fun tonight. Thank you for coming on and talking a little bit of football with us, not just your game last night, but all the results and some of the things that are happening tonight. Have a good call with Steve again at Fitch. Keep that seat warm for Ty. And,
I will. I just want to let people know this is not my school. This is still Ty Bartel's school. I'm just filling this for this week. The people know Ty Bartel. They might get a little dose of me tonight, but I'm sure I'm going to be getting some questions of people asking, where's Ty? He'll be back next week. He'll be taking over the charge.
They're in great hands, though, too. They're in great hands, too. I don't think you could ask for a better duo, too. So this is going to be a fun game for you, and it's going to be fun.
Ty's in Atwater. Ty's in Atwater for Waterloo and United.
Representing Waterloo, too. New bleachers that are in, too, so I'm excited, too.
Oh, yeah.
For the Vikings, so
it'll be big games tonight.
Robo, thanks again, and we'll see you again real soon.
All right, thanks for having me.
Anthony Romo coming on, and it's always a great conversation with him, especially during football season. I was like, when he said that he called the coach from Foothill, and like he's having a pre-production meeting, kind of like ESPN broadcasters would with their coaches. I was like, this guy is just making us all look bad. He's calling coaches.
I was, but I also. I know, right?
Come on, man.
He does a good job, though. He does a great job. I also, too, I know we were talking about Edgewood, but I also wanted to make sure that we give our official warm welcome to Southern Local.
Local.
A funny story, too. Initially, too, when I saw the post that we got Southern Local, I think my wife was in the kitchen when I was on the couch when I saw it, and I immediately got excitement because I was like, we got Ashley Schroeds on the network now. Because, like, I'm so excited to be able to see her. I mean, be able to play multiple sport athletes. She's going to be phenomenal, too. I'm so excited to be able to see her. And as well as this Southern community that we know is almost like cult-like for football, man. They go nuts down there for their sports.
Because we haven't had them, and we've had all the other EOAC teams, they've been kind of a thorn in And am I on? I don't know. I have the internet. I have the internet message on my screen, and Ty just left. So I don't know if I'm on, if I'm having connection issues. Here comes Ty right back. Ty, was that on my end or yours?
I don't know what just happened. I think we both glitched out for a moment. That was wild.
I got the internet message on the top of the screen, and then my screen went black, so I thought it was just me.
I just got the
But
spinning.
then when I came back, Tygo left, and I was like, what's going on?
I got the spinning thing. So it was but no, Southern Local, I'm excited. And you talked about them being a thorn in the side of a lot of those EOAC teams, and
right.
You couldn't be more right in that. Southern Local, always a good sports program. They have good fan support down there. It's a good community. I'm excited to start seeing them and getting into them a little bit more, getting some interviews too with players and coaches down there.
No longer does Southern have to listen to YSN broadcast where, we don't hide it. We're 80-20 when you're not a YSN school. So when you were playing EOAC schools on the road and you were listening to YSN as a Southern fan, probably got a little annoyed at the homership, but that's kind of what we do. You don't have to do that anymore because now Southern is officially signed and they will make their YSN debut tonight as they host a McDonald team. That actually, talking about matchups, that's going to be a fun one because McDonald is prestigiously good at football. They like to be physical, just like Southern does, and that's kind of a matchup between two teams that do things kind of the similar way. DJ Oakley will be down there in Southern Salineville to kind of welcome in Southern to the YSN family.
Salineville, I've always heard too, is crazy when it comes to football season. I heard they go as far as to close roads off too for certain football seasons down in that town. They make sure that everyone gets to that game too, and they load the stand. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited to hear what DJ comes back with after taking a trip down there.
And Ty, we talked about unique color schemes. Southern has the yellow with the royal blue, like the natural blue, which you don't see those two combined a lot. You see a lot of navy and yellow. McDonald has navy and yellow, but you don't see a lot of yellow with normal, like middle of the pack blue, I guess you would call it. I call it royal blue because it's the Royals, but technically royalty is defined by purple. But royal blue on my wall, it's like that blue plus yellow. You don't really see that too often.
No, and I mean it's a nice look though for Southern. They definitely change it up, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it.
I like it. I absolutely do, and their field is immaculate. So we're gonna get a proper introduction to Southern tonight. Once again, they play McDonald at home. DJ Oakley will be on the call. One of 23 games on the network tonight.
I just wanted to make sure we gave our warm welcome because we were talking about Edgewood, and of course thank those 440 and Gold boys too, because they're definitely going to be huge and integral parts in getting some more of these teams under the YSN banner because they've already created such a great relationship out there in Ashtabula County too, doing what they do best, and they got us a chance to see it last night with Edgewood. Welcomed Edgewood in with a great introduction to YSN.
Before we take a break, Ty, let's just run through all the scores from last night just to kind of sweep them away and make sure all the scores are set on the air. So we will start with, let's see, first graphic brought in was Sebring. They took the loss to that West Lincoln team, 36-14. Edgewood beat Conneaut 15-14 on the 2-point conversion late. Newton Falls had over 200 rushing yards in the first half alone, and they beat down St. John 41-0. Toronto beat Wellsville 34-8, and that was a closer game for the most part until the end. Wellsville actually had the ball down 20-8 late in the fourth quarter, had a chance to kind of score and get back in. It didn't work out. Toronto scored a late touchdown to make that game look a lot more lopsided than it actually was. So they get the 30-48 win in Wellsville. South Range emphatically gets the win on rivalry night, 37-7 over Springfield. And like we said before, this was not a Springfield team that this should be panic mode. They got kind of controlled by South Range last year too. Some late touchdowns made that game look a little bit closer than it was. They're going to have to bounce back against Brookfield. So the schedule mirrors last year's exactly, because last year they had to bounce back off of the South Range loss, face this Brookfield team, escaped with a win, and then went to Geneva and just got things rolling. So we'll see if the Tigers can bounce back next week as they do play Brookfield.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how the Tigers perform in that. And we know before, and we've seen in seasons before, when Springfield plays angry, they're a dangerous team. I threw up the comment too by Brandon too, giving some love to Edgewood, and it was a win over the rivals of Conneaut. We're starting to learn a lot more of the Edgewood rivals. I already know about the Jefferson.
Jefferson.
Too. I know that's going to be a big game too when those two teams lock horns. It's always fun.
All right, so then we go to Niles, who won the backyard brawl in Trumbull County as they beat Howland 21-7. A game that was just physical, back and forth. It was for the most of the game. It was 7-7, 14-7. A late touchdown made it 21-7 Niles. Antoine Gardner, just as impressive as he's always been for the Dragons. He put on a show, and Niles gets the win. Jackson Milton, like I said, they win 54-0 over Latonia, and it was their air raid offense getting it done for the Blue Jays. How about that? Blue Jays had to replace a lot of players. They were senior heavy last year, and one of the players they had to replace was their quarterback. So they had to come into this game with a guy making his first start in varsity, and I wanted to get his first name right. Alex Xavi. And Xavi just, casually broke a program record for touchdowns in a game with 7.
Yeah, the graphics tagline said Blue Jays air raid Latonia, and I don't think there's a better fitting tagline with it, because that's exactly what it was. Air mailed, air delivered. Blue Jays flew away with it on the Bears.
Oh man, it was like, how about that? Your first start back there, and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna casually break a program record, no big deal. We were rooting for his 8th touchdown on the audible call, but the 8th touchdown was a running one, so
yeah,
that was kind of disappointing. But hey, what are you gonna do, right? We go to some other scores in the area. We continue to go through your finals from last night. Once again, Salem beat Crestview 17-7 to move to 1-0 on the season. Cheney beat Poland 34-2. A late safety kept the shutout off the board, but Poland's offense 4 turnovers. Cheney's defense was really good in that game, and they get the win. Ursuline beat Brookfield 52-14 last night at Stambaugh Stadium to kind of emphatically send the message that they aren't going anywhere when you talk about area teams that are really good. And those are the final scores from last night.
Yeah, I mean, a nice, like you said, appetizer of games to start for Thursday night, and the main course gets you fed here tonight on the network.
And we are going to take a break, our first break on Running Point. When we come back, we'll talk about that main course, go through the games that are happening on the network tonight, and what we think of these matchups and what we expect from some of these big-time games that are happening tonight on the network. So don't go anywhere. This is Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Why choose local? Because you live here, work here, learn here, relax here, and celebrate here. 21 WFMJ is our Valley's only locally owned TV station, and our focus is local. Other TV stations don't have that same focus, as their owners are somewhere else. But 21 WFMJ is rooted in the Valley. Local people making decisions that affect your life, right here where you live.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa.
And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing.
Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships.
We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team.
Your goals, our game plan.
Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com or find
Jimmy Sudman here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring PGA professionals, golf instruction, a players' rewards club, kids programs, and a pro shop and grill room for a memorable golf experience. Call or click to schedule your tee time at Mill Creek Golf Course.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers.
From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle.
And lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Now is the time to think about your future, where you want to go, what you want to be. Your future can start now at Kent State Salem or Kent State East Liverpool. We have programs that will open doors and provide opportunities for you to pursue your passion. We are affordable, we are close. You call it hometown, we call it Kent State University. Learn more at www.kent.edu/Columbiana. You belong here.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin. Now, I guess since we don't have our nameplates, it doesn't really matter, but it feels weird to not be on the left. So I'll switch this around. Anthony Harvey alongside Ty Bartell. Ty, we went over last night's games. 10 finals came in, some surprising results. Maybe not score-wise, but the way that they went, and that was an appetizer. We have the main course tonight, Friday night, 23 football games on the network, and we're going to talk about all of them. We're going to talk about most of them here. Let's start with the one, we lead off with the ones that are alphabetical down the list based on the away team. Beaver Local with the season opener at Indian Valley. Mike McKenzie on the call.
Should be fun too at Beaver Local too, and going up against Indian Valley, and I mean McNuggies too, owning in the call too for all the Beaver Local faithful. It should be a fun game to open up the season for the Beavers too, who I think already opened up. I can't remember the exact number right off the top of my head though, but I know in those power rankings too, and they look to hold that spot as well. Look to be a good team this season.
Beaver Local is a team that's returning a lot, especially I think the one that you circle and you say that returning is Austin Klein in the quarterback position. A lot of skill players coming back though as well. I think the question mark for Beaver Local is how much are they going to return on the offensive line, and how good are they going to be at protecting Austin Klein and pushing the defensive line when they run the ball. I think that'll be the only question mark. They still should be one of the top teams in that Buckeye 8 conference.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Coming in at number 7, too, in the power rankings as well. Should be fun.
We continue to the next one. They go to Indian Valley again. So Boardman and Mooney at Middle Ridge. This is kind of old school. It's nice to see Boardman versus Mooney. It just feels right.
This should be a fun game, too, as Mooney looking to prove themselves against some area teams and looking to get back on track into the seasons of their expectations.
Right.
And same thing with Boardman. These are two teams that are trying to get back to what their program expects in their winning ways. It's a great game, I think, to start off the season. I think this is one of those wild card games that might take game of the night.
Donnie Riccatelli will be on the call from Middle Ridge. And
what a great voice for that too.
I know. I love listening to Donnie call games. But what a great point you made. These are two programs that are kind of in the same spot. They're trying to kind of rejuvenate a very traditionally winning program. So whoever wins this game could have a foothold on some momentum going forward to reach that goal. I think we've talked about it before. Mooney is never down for long. You always sometimes they come out of nowhere after a couple of losing seasons, and they're all of a sudden they found talent or they found the physicality, and boom, Mooney's really good. Maybe this is the year where they kind of wake up and boom, Mooney's really good again. So Boardman too, they have a lot of athletes on that team. They lost a couple, but it's going to be fun to watch Mooney and Boardman both try to fight each other to kind of gain dominance in the area. An old school rivalry, and one that we're happy that we get to say is happening this year on the network.
Yeah, it should be really fun too. I'm excited for this matchup between Spartans and Cardinals.
Two Youngstown teams making the trip to Middle Ridge to play a home game for Cardinal Mooney. I don't know how many Mooney alums would have imagined that, but that's one of the deals that really worked out really well in Mooney's favor. Last year it went so well having home games at Middle Ridge. They decided to renew that, and Middle Ridge approved it. And all the Mooney home games this year will also be at Middle Ridge. So a fun atmosphere for this one. And Donnie Riccatelli will have you covered with the call at 7 o'clock, Boardman versus Mooney. Now we go into one of the ones that everyone's talking about. Romo brought it up. It's Canfield West Branch. It's a battle between two great quarterbacks and Judah Shields and Brock Lowry, 2 Division I quarterbacks, because Judas Shields had just committed to Eastern Illinois, which is in the FCS, and then Brock Lowry obviously going to Indiana in the Big Ten. So 2 Division I quarterbacks in one game. Doesn't get much better. What do you think about this one? I think Romo made a good point. West Branch with that grass field is something that Canfield doesn't have to deal with too often.
Yeah, it is something that you're going to have to make sure you circle to as something that's going to be maybe a little bit of a factor going into this one. But, I mean, these are 2 really good quarterbacks that, I mean, you highlighted too. I mean, you talk about a model of consistency, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions a year ago for Brock Lowry. What a percentage for that passing-wise, too. Just a guy that didn't turn the ball over a ton on the season, and that's huge for Canfield. And then you look at what Drew DeShields did, 41 touchdowns through the air last year. I mean, this kid was on fire the whole season. And, I mean, he was the guy that honestly was the backbone for that West Branch offense. He was the guy that really, when it came down to if a play broke up, he was the one figuring it out, whether it was with his legs or with his arms finding an open receiver downfield. He was figuring it out and really getting West Branch out of a lot of plays too. They're going to come back more fundamentally sound, and I think this is going to be a great matchup between them.
It's funny. I hear a lot of people saying, "Yeah, but he lost a lot of weapons, and there are some people that he lost, some faces that he lost." Like, people forget 2 years ago when Drew DeShields took over. I should say last year when Drew DeShields took over. I don't think anyone really saw it coming, because they all thought, well, West Branch just lost Brock Hilliard, and they're going to really struggle, because they went all the way to the regionals with him, and he was one of the best quarterbacks in the area that year. And everyone's like, what's West Branch going to look like with a new quarterback? And then Drew DeShields is like, hold on, don't worry about it. I got you. Well, I think now is his time to say, okay, we lost Nick Wilson, we lost Jackson Hendershot, we lost Stephen Mara, we lost a couple line. What? Hold on, don't worry about it. I got you. Drew DeShields is going to be fine. I think this is going to be a great game.
I think so as well. I mean, as long as the receivers are confident in what they're doing and they're willing to take those chances too when plays break down, just find a way to get open. Drew will find you too. He's great when a play breaks down. He's great on just reading the defense and getting the most out of plays when they break down.
Yeah, just hearing some people talk about this game outside in the media culture, I think some people forgot, like, last year before the season started, Drew DeShields was a question mark, because they were trying to replace Brock Hilliard, who was a really good quarterback that everyone, graduated from West Branch. Everyone was asking, what are they going to do in quarterback now that Brock's gone? And Drew DeShields is like, guys, I've been doing this before. I started in middle school. I just kind of bided my time, and everything's fine. So I think now everything's going to be fine again. I think Drew DeShields is one of the most cerebral quarterbacks that we have in the network. So it should be fun. I still think they're going to miss Stephen Mara and the physicality of that offense, but we'll see.
It's going to be interesting too, because Canfield typically runs out of that I formation a lot, and we see West Branch typically runs a spread type offense. They like to spread everything out as much as they can. We'll see if they continue with that kind of game plan too, and what we're going to see offensively from both these teams, because, I mean, the quarterback play is certainly what we're going to be looking at in this matchup.
They were a team last year that could do both, because they had Stephen Mara, who could just power run if they needed to do that, but they also had someone that's versatile as Drew DeShields. They had weapons like Nick Wilson and Jackson Hendershot that could really spread the ball around. So I'm also looking to see, can they keep that two-dimensional type of offense where they're able to really ground and pound and be physical when they need to, but also spread it out when they need to as well. So under Tim Cooper, first game under the helm as head coach. So it's also his debut as HC down at West Branch, and he's got a good test to start. We go from that to Garfield. They are welcoming in Middlefield Cardinal to open in the season. Garfield, one of those teams, I think a team that no one's talking about in Division 5. Like, why aren't we talking about Garfield? They've been in the playoffs seemingly like every year. They're always a really good program. I know they lost Anthony Dema, who was such a great player last year, but like, we can't count out the G-men in Division 5 at all.
It's a good football program too, and I think they're another one of those teams you got to look at inside that conference too, as definitely one of those threats to take the conference again in that FBC great tier. As you just yeet your mic right off your desk.
Whoops.
But no, I think the G-Men will be just fine too. They always have consistent play out of there in Garrettsville too, and they always produce really good teams. I would expect nothing less going into this season.
Every day I have to have something happen that proves to everyone that I'm not a professional at this. So there's my one of today, yanking the mic off my table.
There you go.
Well, I don't know a lot about Middlefield Cardinal football. I know a lot about some of their ancillary sports, and then they're always a good basketball program. They're a great volleyball program. Honestly, like their football program, I don't know a ton. I know Garfield's really good, so I expect them to roll tonight. It'll be on Boxcast for you Garfield fans. Like usual, we will put a link to that on Garfield's YSN page, and you'll be able to watch that through Boxcast and Garfield's sports network.
It was a solid team last year in Middlefield Cardinal. They were 7-4 a year ago, but I think a lot of these teams pretty much ran their schedules back similarly from a year ago to a lot of these teams. It seems like because last year they opened up with Garfield, and Garfield steamrolled them 49-6. So there's some mixed emotions going into the season. 7-4 the Huskies were a year ago, so they're definitely a competitive football team. They're looking to maybe get some revenge on Garfield. Garfield looking for a repeat of a year ago.
Seems like they bounced back from that brutal loss pretty well, winning 7 games after losing 49-6 in week 1. We go from that one to Columbiana going to Lowville. Everyone is so high on Lowville this year. They think they're the team that can really give Springfield some problems. I think their stock probably raised a little bit in people's eyes after they saw Springfield last night. You know, everyone likes to hit the panic button early and be like, well, Springfield got handled, so, now Lowville's really got a chance. But, Lowville's kind of the darling of the season this year. They're in playing Columbiana that has an identity. They've had an identity for a long time. I don't think you can ever sleep on Columbiana, but this is a game where Lowville wants to kind of send that message that we're here this year.
They have an opportunity, right? Because realistically, let's just be real. Neither team's played a game inside their conference yet. Neither team's played an MBAC Scarlet Tier game yet. That doesn't come until week 4 of the season. I think all these teams play 3 non-conference games, and then they all finish the season 7 consecutive. So until we get into those conference games, it's tough to really take a measuring stick to these non-conference games because, let's be real, South Range and Columbiana are very different first week non-conference opponents too, and what you're competing against. Nothing against, no disregard to Columbiana. It's still a great program, still a great school too, but we know what South Range is doing right now this year and what the goals are in that program right now. So, I mean, for a first week opponent, it's going to be tough to kind of gauge, even if Louisville does come out with a win. I want to see once we start conference play too, after these non-conference games, the records are going to be what they're going to be. And I'm curious to see what Springfield comes out of it this year, because they had a similar result happen to them last year. They got beat up pretty bad by South Range a year ago, and they responded pretty emphatically too. So let's see what they do with this non-conference game, but let's really see when that conference starts, because Lowville and Springfield, they have to lock horns eventually this season.
And, for Columbiana, this is a chance to kind of re-garnish their tradition of a winning football program. They take down the darling of the season in week 1. All of a sudden, everyone's talking about Columbiana.
Columbiana would love nothing more than to take down the Lowville Rockets that week 1 of the season, because all the hype that's surrounding Lowville. Oh. Think about it though. Think about the hype that surrounds Columbiana then if you take down a team like that. I feel like, I don't know if everyone's going to necessarily be panicking on Lowville's end as much as they'll be saying what kind of things are coming out of Columbiana's end. So if you want to raise some eyes, I think Columbiana can certainly do that with an emphatic win.
Here's a question. I'm curious all season, not just tonight, how Lowville handles the hype that's surrounding this program. Because, when was the last time people were emphatically talking about Lowville football and saying, they are going to be, contenders, they're going to be really good. Everyone's kind of talking about Lowville. Have those kids been able to cancel out the noise? Are they handling the hype the way they should? You don't know. Know.
Checked on the schedule, too. First conference game of the season, Springfield-Lowville, September 9th. Week 4.
Circle that one.
Get through your non-conference schedule, too, because that's where pretty much a lot of the marbles are going to be decided right now. At least you're going to settle that right there out of the gate for the Scarlet Tier. You still got to talk about Western Reserve. You still got to talk about McDonald. got to talk about Jackson Milton now after that. I mean, there's still some big games, but at the beginning of the season too, I know even after the loss, even though it was a non-conference loss, I still feel like Springfield has to be the favorites until someone knocks them off in that conference.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that's going to be a big one too, because everyone's been hyping Louisville up as that team that can do it, and they have an opportunity.
Look, I know Springfield lost a lot, but that would make more weight in my mind if it was close games last year. Like, okay, they lost a couple of things, maybe they can make up a couple 14 points. No, Springfield put their foot down on every
single opponent in that MVAC. Like, there was not
so
really.
It's like I'm still sitting here asking, like, are the losses to Springfield worth 40 points? Because that's what you kind of have to make up.
Yeah, it's going to be
interesting. We'll see. That's why I think Springfield are still the favorites in that MVAC Scarlet Tier, even after last night. I still firmly believe that. And if Louisville comes and proves us wrong in week 4, then we'll roll with that. But right now, I think Springfield has to be your favorite.
Same thing I said with Girard volleyball that I'll say with Springfield. It's their conference until it isn't, until someone takes it from them.
You know what? This one's sneaky interesting. I think people are overlooking it, but East at Hubbard. Hubbard lost a lot. Like, Hubbard lost a lot of important pieces to that team.
And East is a program, too, that has had some successful years in the past, too. So East is one of those programs, too, that would love nothing more than to start off the season with a bang. And, anytime you look at those city schools, too, there's so much athleticism that runs through them, too. And everyone's giving all kinds of attention to Ursuline and Cheney, and Mooney's even getting attention. Everyone's forgetting about East in that Steel Valley Conference. And one way the Golden Bears would make an immediate impact is if they can get a win against Hubbard week 1. And Hubbard's just trying to continue that success like they had last year. A very successful season last year, but now it's one of those seasons. Is it going to be a rebuilding year, or is it going to be a transition year right now? Because a difference, I think, is a 500 record. Are you going to have an above 500 record, or are you going to fall and dip below that? We'll see for the Eagles this year.
I just wonder, can they find offense? Can they find someone to be that offensive guy? Because TC Caffey probably contributed about 85% of their offense last year. That number is not official. I'm just pulling it out of my head. I don't want someone to go be like, wrong. Just pulling that number out of my head. It just felt like it felt like he was about 85% of their offense last year. Obviously, he's gone, and so are a lot of the other, their quarterback, Wilcox, is gone. They lost a couple of big offensive linemen. Bozer is gone. So what are they going to do now that they don't have that? Like, what's their offense identity going to be? Who's going to step up and be that offensive powerhouse? I don't know. I think this is going to be a defensive game. I wouldn't imagine Hubbard breaks out and scores a lot of points, which should keep East in it. If they can find some balls to bounce their way, who knows? East could stun people, because I know everyone's kind of, you can go into our picks or on ysnlive.com. It's a piece of content on the website. You'll see how everyone's picking this week. Pretty sure most everyone picked Hubbard in this game. So East could really shock people.
This could be a great game too, and tonight's too, and they could definitely be the upset of the night for sure. If the Golden Bears get the win,
maybe like one of those 14-7 type games tonight in Hubbard. We'll see. East Liverpool traveling to Minerva. Chris Sigler making the trip to the Lions place. Minerva hasn't won a game since 2019. They gave up an average of, I think, 54 points a game last year. You look at those numbers, that's not very promising for the Lions. But it is promising for our YSN school in East Liverpool that they're going down there and they can open up the season with a program that is, there's no way around it. They're struggling right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good opportunity for the Potters to start off 1-0 on this season, and that's exactly what East Liverpool is looking to do, you figure, too. And I mean, it's definitely looking to get some confidence, build some confidence, and hopefully generate some momentum that they can roll with as the season goes along.
In games like this, when you're walking in as the favorites and you're probably more physical, more talented than the team, I think you have to look at it as a coaching staff, especially. Are we doing the things that are under our control no matter who we play the right way? Are we executing our stuff? because you can probably win this game even without executing your stuff because you're more talented. You can just win on talent.
Well, that's the thing.
Are you doing the things to go past talent? I think it's going to be the big key for
you risk players that can get lazy flat out too when you play teams like this too, where it's kind of going in. You're expected to win. You can win based on just your talent level alone. You want to still see those players give effort because you got to walk that fine line though between you don't want to obviously pummel a team now, right? Because in the name of sportsmanship, but you could put in different guys at that point. I feel like you shouldn't ever sacrifice the level of play that these athletes that you expect them to play at, because we've seen plenty of times where teams go and play a team like this where you're kind of expected to win, and then you go into a competitive week the next week and then they fail to show up because you kind of carry over those lazy tendencies that you were utilizing just a week ago.
Time we go to the next game on our slate. Once again, that's in alphabetical order based on the away teams. Girard at Streetsboro. If this game goes anything like last year's, more than 75 combined points tonight, easily.
Streetsboro was packed when I drove through it earlier today, so there's already a lot of traffic in Rocket Land over here. So it's going to be an exciting game. I can't wait to see what Girard's able to do against the Streetsboro team that's usually high-flying offensively and typically a really solid team over here in Portage County.
Well, Girard's going to be healthy. They have Michael Palmer coming back off of an 1,000-yard rushing season. So Girard's going to be really good. I think they're going to have enough offense to kind of put on a show. Are they going to have enough offense? Because last year it was high scoring, but Streetsboro still won by 21. I think it was 59 to 35 or something like that. I mean, it was really high scoring, but Streetsboro just too much offense to keep up with.
Honestly, you look at Girard, and I've always said about them too, year in and year out, they get kind of overshadowed in that NE8 because of the other teams that play there. But honestly, Girard has always put together some very successful football seasons. They're always in the conversation. They're always having winning years, it seems like. And that's a lot to be said considering they play in a really good team. I mean, don't forget too, just what was it, a few short years ago, they had that 13-win season, I think. Just
this
a few
program went to state.
Yeah, this was a great program too. And since then too, I think their worst season was a COVID year where they were 4-6, but they made a run in the playoffs too during that season, I believe.
Crazy. I think this is a high-scoring game, and I think it's going to be one of those ones that probably pops up on the audible call a lot just because big plays are going to happen every time they step on the field. Jefferson hosting Grand Valley. This one will be the 4-4-0 and goal team from Jefferson, 7 o'clock p.m. the start time. So 4-4-0 and goal gets another chance to kind of introduce themselves to the YSN family. If you did not check them out last night, please go check them out tonight. They are so good at their job, and they make every broadcast fun. It's going to be a great one. Grand Valley at Jefferson. Don't miss it.
When I've gotten to do some games at Jefferson, I remember when we didn't have 4-4-0 and goal as an affiliate too. They were there a handful of times too, and they always brought great energy. Jefferson knows them well, so this is going to be a pretty easy transition, I think. You're just welcoming 4-4-0 and goal as a YSN affiliate to the network too. So Jefferson, they're in good hands too with 4-4-0.
Grant Hitchcock going into his senior year at Jefferson as quarterback. He's been starting for 2 years. He's got 2 years under his belt as a starting quarterback, and now he's a third-year starting QB. He's got the legs. He's got the arm. He'll be a dynamic weapon tonight for Jefferson.
He'll definitely be a dynamic weapon. Hitchcock's definitely a stud, man. I've seen him play a couple of times. He's one of those dual threats, too. As long as guys are open, he'll find them.
Romo already kind of gave us a preview of Foothill against Austintown Fitch tonight at 7 o'clock. He and Steve Leslie will be on the call. The road from Las Vegas to Ohio is a long one, and obviously Fitch is hoping that it's all for naught with the win tonight. So keep an eye on that one. We're excited to just kind of showcase our area's football to out-of-state people. So
it's always exciting, man.
It'll be fun. LeBray going to Lakeview, and this is a LeBray team. A lot of question marks. Like who not just with a new coaching staff, but who's going to be the guys? Because they lost almost every skill position player that was important to their offense last year.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this is going to be interesting to see what the Vikings can do. I mean, they're one of those teams that want to prove everybody wrong and say, yeah, we might have lost a lot this year, but we can also reload. So it's going to be interesting to see this season what LeBray is able to do in trying to fill some of those holes on offense.
And this is a Lakeview team that's obviously trying to build a winning culture, but they keep getting better every single year, more and more competitive, making more and more plays, maybe not getting blown out 42-0 every night anymore. So don't count out Lakeview in this game where LeBray is trying to figure everything out. This is a perfect time to get a win against a team when you're playing them week one, when they're trying to kind of replace people.
Both teams would love nothing more than to open up the season with a win too, and I think it would do wonders for both of these teams going into this season.
I think it would do two different things for the two communities. For if LeBray won this game, it would give everyone kind of a sigh of relief, like, okay, like they figured some stuff out. There are some new guys, but they've put them in the right place. It's all good. Lakeview, they get the win. It'll just be pure excitement because I don't think they've won a season opener in a long, long time.
Yeah, and I mean for Cortland community too, they definitely love their sports, man. And it's been a tough road the last few years with their football team, but they've been grinding through it and they've been battling through it, doing the right things to try to build that program. And you got to remember, I mean, just a few short years ago, this was a program that was pretty solid too, had some solid seasons. So just going through a rough patch, trying to get through these rough waters into calmer seas.
Ty, sneaky game here, Liberty at Western Reserve. These two teams opened the season with each other last year. It was a great game. I think Western Reserve got the win, 14-12, or something like that. It was close. Now Liberty comes in with Chris Cunningham, who I think is the one player no one's talking about at all. 1,000-yard receiver last year. He's a great wide receiver. He's also going to be asked to play defense this year and play both sides. So keep an eye on Chris Cunningham for Liberty. And I think this is going to be another good game between two teams that are really just good football programs. Liberty's been we went over it. Like the last 4 years are exactly 500.
I believe so. I think it's something like that. So Liberty's one of those teams. They were 5-5 again last year. And honestly, I think this is one of those games too, where if you look at our picks, this is one where we were really divided on this year just because of the score last year. It was actually 30-12 in favor of Western Reserve. But Western Reserve started pulling away a little bit later.
I feel like that was a close. Why do I feel like that was such a close game?
I mean,
my bad.
No,
sorry, Western Reserve.
You look in the box score though. I do think, there was some late scores too overall.
Okay,
30-12. Actually, it was. Hold on. No, it was Liberty that won 30-12 a year ago.
No, we just have to apologize for everybody. We're sorry. Once again, we are not professionals.
No, 30-12 win for Liberty a year ago. And like I said, this is one of those ones where a lot of people are divided. A battle between MVAC conferences, Gray versus Scarlet. But this is a Leopard team that had a lot of athleticism. They pushed both Garfield and LeBray to all they had last year too, and those were two of the top teams, not only in that conference but inside both of their respective divisions too. So I mean,
one of those games or a playoff team?
Huh?
Liberty wins one of those games or a playoff team?
Easily. Those were both two. You look at a number 1 seed, LeBray in Division 6 in their region last year, and number I think 3 or 4 seed for Garfield a year ago in Division 5.
I think Liberty finished at 17 in the final rankings, so they were right on the edge, and they were like 15 going into last week, and they needed one of those wins. They needed LeBray or Garfield. They got so close to both of them.
Both of them were the difference of a touchdown and an extra point. 7-point loss to LeBray and Garfield to end the season last year.
Tough. So they'll look to kind of start the season again on a positive note as they go to Western Reserve for the first game of their season.
With the exception of Crestview, too, their other losses were a 4-point loss to Rootstown and a 14-point loss to Girard. So these were competitive games through and through for Liberty. They look to keep that rolling this season.
Just that one kind of clunker against Crestview is all that really blemished their schedule as far as competitiveness. Malvern traveling to East Palestine, and it will be Tim Figley on the call for this one. 7:00 start. Malvern, for people that don't know, they're just big physical. They're going to push people around. That's what East Palestine has to look forward to. Just a big physical team. So Malvern coming to East Palestine. East Palestine, like other programs we've talked about in the same kind of boat as Lakeview, just trying to build a winning culture.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they're just trying to get a solid win out of the season. And hey, you look towards the end of the last year too. That game with Columbiana was pretty competitive towards the end of last season for East Palestine. This is going to be a tough game, no doubt, because we know what Malvern brings to the table. But I'm sure, as DJ always says, right, there's a shot. So you're telling me there's a shot too. So Bulldogs could definitely be Miracle City if they pull off a win, because this Malvern team's a solid team. But any given Friday night, right, Ant?
And now we go into DJ's game. He is going to Saleenville as McDonald comes to town to play Southern. And we talked about this game a little bit. Two teams that have kind of the same identity, really physical, always trying to push you around, and a winning culture. So it's going to be an interesting game between the Blue Devils and Indians.
Solid non-conference game, I think, for both of these teams, and I'm really excited to see it because we know what McDonald's trying to get back to after having a season that wasn't up to their standards a year ago. We know that certainly they want to get back to their winning ways, and it starts with non-conference games too, a slate of non-conference games, and of course we know Southern too. EOAC sometimes gets looked over as a football conference in this area too when you compare it to the other conferences that we have. And Southern definitely wants to turn that around too and showcase that they have some bruisers that come out of there as well. This would be a big win for them to open up the season.
Mineral Ridge makes the trip to Pymatuning Valley. Jake Silac going to be traveling with them to make that call in Pymatuning. Going to be one that we had Coach Brian Shaner on. It's one they want back from last year. They're trying to kind of revamp the offense after Mark Bunch leaves and put some guys in place. I think he said Tristan Valley is going to be their quarterback. So look out for Tristan Valley to have a good season for the Rams, as he's already an established name in the area coming over from Girard. So that should be a good one. He's also a golfer, by the way. We've been talking about Middle Ridge Golf a couple of times on this show. They're 4-0 on the season right now, and he puts together some good golf scores. So putting the clubs away tonight, putting the pads on, and making his debut as a Middle Ridge Ram.
Should be fun to see, as the Rams definitely are motivated for this one. Score's been posted all over their locker room for quite some time.
This is the one they wanted back from last year. They're trying to get it back. They'll have to do it on the road. Jake Silac on the call. Former Middle Ridge golfer that was a really good golfer in his own right. So he'll be on the call for that one. We have Monroe Central going to Edison. We talked to Coach Mike Colopy yesterday on Running Point, and he had a great kind of preview for Edison season. Program that is on the rise, definitely. They're just 3 years removed now from a winless season. The COVID year, 3-5, and last year they were a playoff team. So they are definitely kind of chugging along, and they look to continue that upswing with a week 1 victory over a really good Monroe Central team that the coach gave us a pretty good preview of yesterday.
For those teams like Lakeview and East Palestine, those teams that we said are like rebuilding in that rebuilding state, you can
look to Edison and be like, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, Edison kind of showed a little bit of a blueprint too. And I mean, it first and foremost always comes with getting kids involved too and just getting numbers. And I understand that, sometimes that's easier said than done. And for certain communities, you can't always pull kids in. But Edison's definitely done it, and they've done it the right way too, just bringing a lot of homegrown talent in and really developing them along the way too. And I mean, credit Edison for building a community too, and a school district like Coach Colopy was saying too, that the kids want to be involved in and they want to be a part of.
How about this one? Struthers are hosting St. Thomas Aquinas. This will be a good game. Ian O'Brien and Eric Hughes are going to share the mic. Struthers is a team that got hit with the injury bug last year. They feel like their talent wasn't really ever expressed on the field. They had to put a lot of young guys in some kind of green situations where they weren't really quote unquote prepared to be in. So it kind of hurt them down the stretch. But now the benefactor is a lot of those young guys have reps for this season. They're going to be put into situations that they know how to be, they know how to act, they know how to kind of handle. So Struthers is a team, another sleeper in that NE8, kind of like Girard, that a lot of people aren't talking about, but they can get a handful of wins and be in the top tier of that conference.
I don't know if you saw that video that's swirling around social media. Great hype video that was made for the Wildcats football season. I'm excited to see what Struthers is going to be up for tonight too. It should be a good game for the Wildcats. We know that community goes crazy for those.
Yeah, this is the community that waits in line on a practice that's closed anyway.
Yeah, they love it. They love it.
Coach Bayek told us that last year. He goes, "We're not even opening practice to the public. There were still people lined up to get in."
They love it, man. They eat up their sports for sure.
They just wanted to see their Wildcats. They will have a great chance to see him tonight as they host St. Thomas Aquinas. Louisville goes on the run to Steubenville, and Bob Burke, will be making the trip to Steubenville. And if you've been to Steubenville, you know they do things a little bit different. So, Bob, be prepared for a tailgate, and I think they charge to park. It's a different.
I said Salineville and Southern's like a cult. Steubenville
is the cult.
Steubenville is a cult. It's not like anything. It is a cult for football, man. They eat it up. And Louisville, they always welcome in those challenges too. And if anyone goes down there with the flag, it's the Leopards. And the Leopards are in that same boat too, winless from a year ago. They're trying to get into that boat of having a winning culture. And they had some really bright spots, bringing back a lot of teams, a lot of players this season too. They're looking to take the next step too in that program.
And Louisville is a winning program. You don't expect them to be down for long. There's 2 straight seasons where they've been kind of down, but you look at their resume as a program, they are just a winning tradition. So I'm sure they will get back to that eventually. It'll just be, you have to take one step at a time. And their schedule doesn't really give them any breaks.
Certainly. I also want to correct
a
year ago for Louisville. They did win their last 2 games. I wanted to correct that too. They started off the season 0-8, but Louisville beat Alliance, beat Lindsley from Wheeling, West Virginia last 2 games. So if that's an indication going into this year, Leopards might have figured something out, and that's going to be big going into this season.
We have Valley Christian hitting the road to Campbell Memorial. This is an interesting game with 2 teams that have a lot of athleticism on the field, but a lot of kind of inexperienced athleticism. Campbell may be a little bit more experienced because they put a lot of inexperienced guys in last year that were just kind of they tried to bank on athleticism, and they kind of showed their inexperience. This year, more experience, more football IQ to go along with that athleticism. Campbell might be a team that can surprise some people this year.
Certainly, they could be a team that can surprise some people. And, I mean, we know what Valley Christian's all about in that EOAC, too. And they're one of those teams, too, that always has that underdog mentality, man. But they can beat just about anybody that stands in their way. This is going to be a great game, I think, to start off the season. And both these teams share that field over there in Campbell, a beautiful field that's built into,
it's a home game for both of them.
Yeah.
But it is listed as a home game for Campbell. So they will be the home team. Despite both teams using that field as a home field.
But, it's going to be flooded, too, as Valley Christian, the high school, not far from Campbell at all. It's just across that bridge, man, into Sioux City.
JFK travels to Champion. Warren JFK going to be one of the most talked about teams in Division 7, rightfully so. They have a lot of talent like they always do. They're looking to bring back maybe a state championship this year. That's what They're one of those programs, kind of like South Range, kind of like Springfield. They're in the spot where they're thinking state title or bust at this point. Their aims are the state title, and they are going to start the season off by traveling to Champion, which can be kind of a tough place to play. It's a natural grass field. You can sometimes succumb to weather. We saw Crestview, a very good Crestview team that went deep in the playoffs 2 years ago, struggle at Champion. So you can't sleep on the flashes, but Warren JFK looking to start things off with a bang this season with a week 1 trip to Warren. Right, I shouldn't even say it's a trip; it's probably a walk to Champion from JFK.
Yeah, it should be a fun one too, as both teams in each other's backyards.
Wyndham will be hitting the trail going to Lisbon, and Rick Daly will be on the call for this one. Lisbon debuting a new turf field in Lisbon. It looks beautiful. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on social media. It looks amazing. They'll be debuting it against the Bombers, who are coming in trying to kind of spoil the party inside the Blue Devils field. So I know Quinn will be watching this one very closely. We might have to slap him a little bit to get him off the switcher.
Lisbon definitely has the momentum of a new field, but I tell you what, man, I feel like everyone's counting out this Bomber team, and it might be the way they ended their season, but the injuries that they had really killed them. You got to remember, I think this was a team of like 13 dudes a year ago that made up an 11-man football team.
And they had injuries galore.
And they were like 4-2 in the first 6 games. Like they were doing work. I have no doubt if the Bombers have a little bit more depth and they could stay healthy, this is going to be a competitive football team throughout the entire season. This should be a fun one.
They have a proud community down there. They fight for everything they get, and that's for sure. The last game of the slate on the night is United making the trip to Waterloo. Ty, this is your call. So I'm going to kind of let you take it away. I'm sure you've been doing some preparation for this one. You're excited because Waterloo has made some new renovations to their stadium, some new bleachers there. You'll probably have a good place to call the game now. So what do you expect from the Vikings home opener against United?
It's going to be interesting to see because United was such a defensively sound team a year ago. I think they only allowed just a hair over 10 points a game average defensively. Like it's a tough team to play against defensively. DJ Ogilvy is a mastermind as a coach too, and putting the right guys in places too. But you know what Mike DeVries has always been about building this program too, and like he said to us in that coach's corner, and he's put those guys in the weight room a lot, and those guys have willingly went to the weight room a lot, building up some size, building up a little bit of strength. It's going to be a little bit of different look, I think, from this Waterloo team. They're going to be pushing you around a little bit more. They're going to be battling in the trenches, I think, a lot more efficiently. I think the biggest key, too, was defensively when games got out of hand for Waterloo is the ones that they lost. They averaged over 30 points a game given up in their losses, too, where in the games they won, it was always under that 20 mark, too. So that's going to be a key for Waterloo is that defense going into this game against United, where we know United has always been defensively sound. They were again last year too, but when they were getting off of the Ogilvy quarterback too from a year ago, there were some struggles on offense at times too. We're going to see if there's going to be any of those issues with United tonight or if they're going to be locked in at quarterback position.
Waterloo got really close to a couple of games last year, and they were those couple plays away. We talked about it with Coach DeVries in his coach's corner. They just need to make those couple plays that they missed last year in those games that they were competitive against. They run that triple option kind of offense where they're running the ball a lot.
It's really a quarterback in that system.
Right. Quarterback / you're a running back. You're not really a quarterback. Let's just be honest. You might throw 20 passes all season.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what works too. And these are two great communities too. Hanoverton for United, Atwater for Waterloo. I mean, these are two really good communities that support their schools and their athletics so much too. I expect Hanoverton to be there tonight.
Atwater is going to be exciting because it's a renovated stadium. They get a nice place to watch a game. They have new uniforms this year, new helmets. So it'll be a fun night in Waterloo where they debut not just a new stadium but a new look too.
I'm excited to be chilling with the Viking faithful tonight too. That's like that community's like been a second home to me over the years too. So I'm certainly excited to get back into it tonight.
Those are your 23 matchups on the night for football. Head over to ysnlive.com/live to check out all of the games. Just click on the game that you want to watch, and it is completely free. All you have to do is scroll past the sponsors and click the play window. You're good. Also, if you want to check out the Audible call, that goes on at 7 o'clock as well with Steve Ackelson. And then after that, we'll have the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard show to talk about the results, get some players on, maybe get a coach or so on, announcer or so on, and have some fun with the Dickey Electric Scoreboard show after Audible call as well. Audible call brought to you by WRS Wealth Advisors. We thank them for their contributions to getting Audible call off and running. It was a great kind of debut of year 3 last night, and now it gets chaotic. 23 games on one night. We'll be in the war room in the studio trying to make Audible call the best it can be. So join us with that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the volleyball and soccer games that are happening over the weekend as well as we get you ready for the weekend on YSN. 10 more games on Saturday to go along with 23 games that are happening tonight. So we'll talk about that and more when we come back on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
We are Kent State in the Valley. Start and finish one of more than 25 bachelor's or associate degree programs, or start one of Kent State's 280 majors. With low tuition, public, and plenty of scholarship opportunities, We will help you maximize your education and minimize student debt. Enjoy the benefits of a smaller campus with all the opportunities of a large university. Save money, stay close to home. Apply today by visiting kent.edu/Trumbull.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience, WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit WRSwealth.com. Good luck, athletes.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell as we continue this first Friday of the football season. Excited 23 games on the network tonight. Obviously, football is on center stage tonight, but tomorrow it is volleyball's turn to take center stage as the volleyball season gets set up. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 volleyball games on the network tomorrow, as well as 2 soccer games going on with you too. So we'll go over these volleyball matchups that are happening. Ty, you'll be in Austintown Fitch for the exciting debut of the Fitch Falcons that return a lot and also have, some places to kind of revamp. So it's going to be interesting to see, who shines bright, who are some of the new faces. Coach Bartlett always putting together a strong team in Fitch. They will open the season with a Perry team that has been pesky to Fitch for the last couple of years.
It's so fun to see these teams come into Austintown too, and just to see the schedule that they're going to face this season. I can't be more pumped up to see some of the competition that we're going to see Austintown face this year in the volleyball realm.
Jocelyn Jordan is going to be one of the highlights of that Fitch team, and we're going to have an interview with her very, very soon as a first Fitch player profile. Senior Jocelyn Jordan wearing a new number this year, 23. Jordan, 23.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar. Spells it different though. Jou Jordan, not J-O.
Yeah,
so
she definitely put up some great numbers last year that could have been MVP worthy. She's definitely looking to try to put together an MVP this season. There's going to be a lot of great candidates. She's definitely in the talks, I think.
Richie Giuliano has a absolute awesome matchup tomorrow at 11:30 as he goes to Canfield to call Girard at Canfield. You got Lauren Pallone and Bree Vittel who are going to swing like crazy in Girard. Who's going to replace Abby Householder as the main form of offense? I think it'll be Abby McElroy. I think you're going to see the middle get set a lot more this year for Canfield. They return Parker Wilkins, who's going to be a mainstay in that defense in the back row. So don't sleep on the Cardinals just because they lost the YSN Player of the Year in Abby Householder, who will start her career at YSU in a week. That's going to be a really good game. Gerard Canfield. DJ Oakley is going to be at South Range for a tri-match. It'll be West Branch versus South Range at 10, West Branch versus Southeast at 11, and then at 12, Southeast versus South Range. Reminder that because it's a tri-match, it'll be 3 set matches instead of 5. So if you're watching and you say, why are they ending the game when it's 2-0 or 2-1? Well, it's a 3-set match for tri-matches. So 3 3-set matches there from South Range. DJ Oakley will have the call for all of them.
If I'm not mistaken, Southeast, a solid volleyball program, typically year to year too, over here in Ravenna.
That's going to be a really good try between South Range, West Branch, and Southeast. You look at Cheney; they're traveling to Hubbard at 11:30 a.m. and Noah Doty going to Hubbard to make the call there. Hubbard's a team that we expect to really make some strides this year. Peyton Slavesco is a returning player for that team that really put the world on fire last year. They do lose Delaney Panagol, who kind of led their back row as a libero, so they'll have to replace her. But a lot of bright spots for Hubbard, especially Paige Reed. You return your setter, you're okay. So Paige Reed and Sylvesco will come back.
Hubbard football's taken on the east side, and their volleyball's taken on the west side over the weekend.
Chris Ziegler is making the trip to Columbiana. This one's always good. McDonald, Columbiana. It's been 5 sets like every time they've matched up the last 2 years. You'll watch it. Just watch it. It's going to be good volleyball. I promise you that. Columbiana replacing a couple of people. Tori Long no longer there. Julia Rapp no longer there. But they'll have some mainstays as well. McDonald, Klockner is going to be one of the best setters that you'll see in the area. So make sure you watch Megan Klockner for McDonald. Olivia Booth. Actually, Olivia Booth is in Middle Ridge. Excuse me. Sorry, McDonald fans. That's probably.
I was going to say that. I was like, what are you talking about?
I meant Maria Rizal. Maria Rizal is going to be a really important key to that McDonald offense as well. And then last but not least, I will be in Mooney as Lakeview goes to town, and it will be at a 12 start time. So I'm kind of the volleyball cap. Everyone's getting started before me. So at 12 o'clock, Lakeview at Mooney, we'll kind of wrap up the volleyball day for you. That's going to be a really good game. Lakeview right there. They're one of the more dominant programs in the area, trying to match up with Girard again this year. And it's going to be a fun season for Lakeview. We already talked to Tara Lytle yesterday, who's going to be one of the senior captains for that Bulldog team.
With the noon start time, Anthony Hartwig over the weekend. Late volleyball for us.
Late volleyball. We'll have boys soccer, South Range traveling to Ursuline. It'll be Dom Polkovich and Richie on the call there at South Range and Ursuline. Boys soccer. Girls soccer, Canfield at Ursuline. Richie and Dom Polkovich will have that one too. So girls soccer will start at 2:30. Boys will start at 7. They'll have both those games for you on YSN. DJ Yoakley, it is up in the air if he'll be at Boardman against Hoban. It is yellow right now. So maybe a third soccer game if DJ's able to make it down to Boardman. But we will definitely be greenlit for 2 soccer games tomorrow, a boys and girls doubleheader at Ursuline, as the girls host Canfield and the boys host South Range.
Should be a fun time here on
hosting Canfield for the first soccer match. That's going to be a tough one. Canfield, 10 straight AAC championships on that girls soccer side. Coach Simone comes back for his 29th year at the helm. He might be the most tenured coach of the sport.
No doubt. This should be a great matchup to start.
Because let's see, Yeagley came in at I don't know what. No, I thought he came. When did? I always remember that it's the year that the Panthers and the Jaguars entered the NFL is the same year that Yeagley entered as head coach of South Range. But I'm bad with mental math. I don't remember exactly what year that was. Ty, you're the trivia guru. Come on, you gotta know this.
Yeah. You said it's the same year that the Jaguars?
Yeah, there was an expansion year. Jaguars and Panthers both came in the same year.
I think that was
I want to say 96.
I think it was 95, wasn't 95? It? The Browns were 99 again. They brought the Browns back in 99,
right,
wasn't
so
it?
If we go to 95, that's 27 years for Yeagley. So 29 might be the most tenured coach of the YSN family.
It might be. It might be for sure.
10 straight AAC championships for that girls soccer team as Canfield goes to Ursuline. South Range, a perennial soccer team on the boys' side as well. They'll go to Ursuline. So both soccer teams in Ursuline hosting juggernauts to open the season. You expect nothing less from the Irish and the schedules they put together for their sports.
For sure.
So that'll be exciting. 23 games tonight, 10 games tomorrow. Make sure you're locked into YSN, whether you're watching volleyball, soccer, or football tonight. YSN is your place to go. YSNlive.com/live. All these games are free. You don't have to pay for them until we hit tournament time. That's the only time we put up our paywall. I know we got a lot of questions about, do I have to have a password? Do I have to pay for these games? No, these are regular season games. They are all free on the network. YSNlive.com/live is where you can find the list of all the games that we will have covered for you. So don't miss a minute of the action. Casual Sports Podcast going to be coming up next from 2 to 3. Power Hour will get to kicking from 3 to 4. I know they're going to have a lot of guys from games last night, games tonight on that Power Hour. It should be a busy one on the Power Hour. It should be a busy one every Friday night from here on out. From 3 to 4, we're going to take a 70-hour break. Me and Ty will be back on Monday to recap all this week's action. 33 games to recap. It'll be a busy Monday. Might have a couple of interviews as well. In fact, I do think we have a confirmed interview for Monday. Yes, we have Edison Volleyball with Leah Eft going to be joining the show on Monday. as well as I think we're going to have a pre-recorded interview with Jocelyn Jordan over the weekend to play for you guys as well. So that's coming up on Running Point on Monday, as well as the recaps from all the weekend's action. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This was once again Running